Welcome to In Focus with Silvana Pavlovska, broadcasting from Melbourne, Australia. Today is the 1st of June, 2024. We're continuing our series on the Macedonian question, and in particular, Professor Dr. Igor Janev's scholarly publication, The PRESPA Agreement as Cultural Genocide of the Macedonian National Identity Towards the Termination of an Illegal Treaty. Publication which came out late 2023. Yesterday, we covered the Appendix 11. Today, we are looking at Appendix 12, a very important appendix because it is the Framework Agreement. It's titled, Concluded in Ohrid, Macedonia, signed in Skopje, Macedonia on the 13th of August, 2001. 2001. And here we have the following. My apology. Here we go. We should have it available on my screen now, so that way I won't be leaning down looking at the printed copy. I can see you this way. Look at you. Welcome once again. Appendix 12. Framework Agreement concluded in Ohrid, Macedonia, signed in Skopje, Macedonia on the 13th of August, 2001. The following points comprise an agreement framework for securing the future of Macedonia's democracy and permitting the development of closer and more integrated relations between the Republic of Macedonia and the Euro-Atlantic community. This framework will promote the peaceful and harmonious development of civil society while respecting the ethnic identity and the interests of all Macedonian citizens. 1. Basic principles. 1.1. The use of violence in pursuit of political aims is rejected completely and unconditionally. Only peaceful political solutions can assure a stable and democratic future for Macedonia. 1.2. Macedonia's sovereignty and territorial integrity and the unitary character of the state are inviolable and must be preserved. There are no territorial solutions to ethnic issues. 1.3. The multi-ethnic character of Macedonia's society must be preserved and reflected in public life. 1.4. A modern democratic state in its natural course of development and maturation must continually ensure that its constitution fully meets the needs of all its citizens and comports, maybe there's an error, typing error, conforms with the highest international standards, which themselves continue to evolve. 1.5. The development of local self-government is essential for encouraging the participation of citizens in democratic life and for promoting respect for the identity of communities. 2. Cessation of hostilities. 2.1. The parties underline the importance of the commitments of July the 5th, 2001. There shall be a complete cessation of hostilities, complete voluntary disarmament of the ethnic Albanian armed groups, and their complete voluntary disbandment. They acknowledge that a decision by NATO to assist in this context will require the establishment of a general, unconditional, and open-ended ceasefire, agreement on a political solution to the problems of this country, a clear commitment by the armed groups to voluntary disarm, and acceptance by all the parties of the conditions and limitations under which the NATO forces will operate. NATO to assist or do the opposite. Number 3, development of decentralized government. 3.1. A revised law on local self-government will be adopted that reinforces the powers of elected local officials and enlarges substantially their competencies in conformity with the Constitution, as amended in accordance with Annex A and the European Charter of Local Self-Government, and reflecting the principle of subsidiary in effect of the European Union. Enhanced competencies will relate principally to the areas of public services, urban and rural planning, environmental protection, local economic development, culture, local finances, education, social welfare, and healthcare. A law on financing of local self-government will be adopted to ensure an adequate system of financing to enable local governments to fulfill all of their responsibilities. 3.2, boundaries of municipalities will be revised within 1 year of the completion of a new census, which will be conducted under international supervision by the end of 2001. The revision of the municipal boundaries will be effectuated by the local and national authorities with international participation. Not observation, but participation. 3.3. In order to ensure that police are aware of and responsible to the needs and interests of the local population, local heads of police will be selected by municipal councils from lists of candidates proposed by the Ministry of Interior and will communicate regularly with the councils. The Ministry of Interior will retain the authority to remove local heads of police in accordance with the law. Number 4, non-discrimination and equitable representation. 4.1, the principle of non-discrimination and equal treatment of all under the law will be respected completely. This principle will be applied in particular with respect to employment in public administration and public enterprises and access to public financing for business development. 4.2, laws regulating employment in public administration will include measures to assure equitable representation of communities in all central and local public bodies and at all levels of employment within such bodies, while respecting the rules concerning competence and integrity that govern public administration. The authorities will take action to correct present imbalances in the composition of the public administration, in particular through the recruitment of members of underrepresented communities. Particular attention will be given to ensuring as rapidly as possible that the police services will generally reflect the composition and distribution of the population of Macedonia as specified in Annex C. 4.3, for the Constitutional Court, 1/3 of the judges will be chosen by the Assembly by a majority of the total number of representatives. That includes a majority of the total number of representatives claiming to belong to the communities not in the majority in the population of Macedonia. I think we know who they are referring to there, don't you? This procedure also will apply to the election of the Ombudsman, Public Attorney, and the election of 3 of the members of the Judicial Council. Number 5, special parliamentary procedures, 5.1. On the central level, certain constitutional amendments in accordance with Annex A and the law on local self-government cannot be approved without a qualified majority of 2/3 of votes, within which there must be a majority of the votes of representatives claiming to belong to the communities not in the majority in the population of Macedonia. 5.2, laws that directly affect the culture, use of language, education, personal documentation, and use of symbols, as well as laws on local finances, local elections, the city of Skopje, and boundaries of municipalities must receive a majority of votes, within which there must be a majority of the votes of the representatives claiming to belong to the communities not in the majority in the population of Macedonia. 6, education and use of languages. 6.1. With respect to primary and secondary education, instruction will be provided in the students' native languages, while at the same time uniform standards for academic programs will be applied throughout Macedonia. 6.2, state funding will be provided for university-level education in languages spoken by at least 20% of the population of Macedonia on the basis of specific agreements. Now, Silvana commenting here, where did they get that 20% figure from? At least 20%. Where did they get that from? Which hat did it come out of? 6.3, the principle of positive discrimination will be applied in the enrollment, in state universities of candidates belonging to communities not in the majority in the population of Macedonia, until the enrollment reflects equitably the composition of the population of Macedonia. 6.4, the official language throughout Macedonia and in the international relations of Macedonia is the Macedonian language. 6.5, any other language spoken by at least 20%. Here we go again, 20%. Where does this figure come from? What's the evidence? 6.5, any other language spoken by at least 20% of the population is also an official language. Wow. Okay, so this is a very important clause. This is the one which gave those who allegedly claim 20%, they are form part of 20% of the population, namely the Albanian people, who only regard themselves as Albanian, not Macedonian, not even North Macedonian. 6.5, any other language spoken by at least 20% of the population is also an official language. Very interesting, because in Australia, we've got many languages spoken. In fact, there are 250 different languages spoken from many countries around the world, not to mention the 250 Aboriginal languages that are spoken in Australia as well. So about 500 languages in total. Many of these languages are spoken by communities whose populations are pretty high in Australia, according to the census. Does that mean the Italian language, for example, or Arabic language or Mandarin language should also become official languages in Australia? Well, how would you receive that? Would you accept that as Mandarin being the official language of Australia in addition to English? Something to ponder over. So once again, going back to 6.5, any other language spoken by at least 20% of the population is also an official language as set forth herein. In the organs of the Republic of Macedonia, any official language other than Macedonian may be used in accordance with the law as further elaborated in Annex B. We will be looking at Annex B and Annex A as well. Any person living in a unit of local government in which at least 20% of the population speaks an official language other than Macedonian may use any official language to communicate with the regional office of the central government with responsibility for that municipality. Such an office will reply in that language in addition to Macedonian. Yeah, wonderful. Lots of work for interpreters or those who claim to speak Macedonian of Albanian background, or those who are maybe Macedonian may know the Albanian language. I don't know, because nationality doesn't come into it, does it? If you're an interpreter, it's a matter of whether you're qualified. It doesn't matter what your ethnic background is. At least that is the way here in Australia. So we have the opening up of, situation whereby people can speak other languages, namely Albanian, because it's now the official language, not just the Macedonian language, even though Albanian belongs to the Albanian people who are from Albania, not from any other place. However, they find themselves in Macedonia and they've got an official language. Beggars believe. Just think about that, whether that can be applied in Australia. What shall we do about that? So the office has to reply in the language of that person who claims to speak another language. and interpreters need to be provided. Any person may use any official language to communicate with a main office of the central government, which will reply in that language in addition to Macedonian. I mean, this is really unbelievable, isn't it? This is in this document that I'm reading to you from Professor Dr. Igor JANEV. This is the framework agreement. Who is the author of this agreement? The framework agreement. Framework agreement. Okay, continuing on, 6.6. With respect to local self-government, in municipalities where our community comprises at least 20% of the population of the municipality, again, we've got this 20% figure, 20% figure. I'd like to know where it comes from. What's the basis for it? What's the evidence? What's the data? What's the statistics? And are they true and accurate? The language of that community will be used as an official language in addition to Macedonian. With respect to languages spoken by less than 20% of the population of the municipality, the local authorities will decide democratically on their use in public bodies, public institutions. 6.7, in criminal and civil judicial proceedings at any level, an accused person or any party will have the right to translation at state expense. So the state has to pay for services. Yep. In other words, the people who pay taxes that goes to the state is used to pay for translation services of all proceedings as well as documents in accordance with relevant Council of Europe documents. Now, let's just stop for a moment and ponder over this. So if you have a case before the courts and you are not of Macedonian ethnic background, nor do you, well, you claim you don't speak the official language, which is the Macedonian language. Now you are able to use a language where allegedly 20% of the population speaks. And here, undoubtedly, it's references to the implication is the Albanian language, that they can have their documents translated if they claim they don't understand, when they probably do understand. Nevertheless, this document, this framework gives them the right to get their documents translated at the expense of the taxpayer. And any other documents in accordance with whatever relevant Council of Europe documents are involved. 6.8, any official personal documents of citizens speaking an official language other than Macedonian will also be issued in that language in addition to the Macedonian language in accordance with the law. 7, expression of identity. Let's continue. 7.1. 7.1. With respect to emblems, here we go. With respect to emblems, next to the emblem of the Republic of Macedonia, local authorities will be free to place on front of their local public buildings emblems marking the identity of the community in the majority in the municipality, respecting international rules and usages. I wonder what those international rules and usages are. I mean, public institutions and buildings, imagine in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, wherever in Australia, you've got emblems of other countries showing, being displayed. Yeah, let's say of the Italian community, if they argue that they have a 20% presence in this country. How would that look to you? Is that something that is feasible? 8, implementation. 8.1, implementation. Okay, listening carefully. Implementation. 8.1. The constitutional amendments attached at Annex A will be presented to the Assembly immediately. The parties will take all measures to assure adoption of these amendments within 45 days of signature of this framework agreement. 45 days, another figure here. 8.2, the legislative modifications identified in Annex B will be adopted in accordance with the timetable specified therein. 8.3, the parties invite the international community to convene at the earliest possible time a meeting of international donors that would address in particular macro-financial assistance, support for the financing of measures to be undertaken for the purposes of implementing this framework agreement, including measures to strengthen local self-government and rehabilitation and reconstruction in areas affected by the fighting. Fighting, you mean the war against the Macedonian people perpetrated by Albanian ultra-nationalistic and criminal networks. 9, so they're not even using accurate and true terminology here. 9, annexes. The following annexes constitute integral parts of this framework agreement. There's A, B, C, and A refers to constitutional amendments, B to legislative modifications, C, implementation and confidence building measures. Obviously, whoever is the author of this document took a lot of time, is of legal background, political, no doubt, partialities and subjectivities. However, we'll continue, and it is written in English. The document was produced in English. So the annexes: A, constitutional amendments; B, legislative modifications; C, implementation and confidence building measures. Now, before I continue, I do want to stress that this is a framework agreement, okay? Framework agreement, for those of you who have got a legal background, perhaps you'll be willing to provide some explanation of what this means. What does it mean? Is it law? Is it a statute? Is it an act? Where does it come from? It's been implemented, but is it true? Is it based on facts, statistics? I'd like to know. Number 10, provisions. This agreement takes effect upon signature. Excuse me. Right. Making sure we are on the right page on my screen as well as on my printed copy. So final provisions, 10.1. This agreement takes effect upon signature. 10.2, the English language version of this agreement is the only authentic version. I just said it a few minutes ago. It is the original version. This document, this framework agreement, so-called, was written in the English language. Definitely not written by a Macedonian-speaking person. And I doubt that the Macedonian-speaking people involved in whatever capacity have anything to say about this. It's been written by somebody deliberately in the way that it's been written. So 10.3, the agreement was concluded under the auspices of President Boris Trajkovski. So Boris Trajkovski was the president of Macedonia, of the Republic of Macedonia at the time, and it was performed in Skopje, Macedonia on the 13th of August, 2001, in the English language. Boris Trajkovski, president of the Republic of Macedonia, Ljupčo Georgievski, Arben Jaferi, that's a familiar name. Arben Jaferi, president of VMRO, Depomene is was Ljupčo Georgievski, and Arben Jaferi, that's not a Macedonian name, president of the Democratic Party of Albanians. Imagine a Democratic Party of Italians, or Democratic Party of Greeks, or Democratic Party of Chinese in Australia, or even of Britain. Great Britain, or the United Kingdom, or United States of America. Branko Crvenkovski, president of the Social Democratic Union of Macedonia. Imer Imeri, president of the Party for Democratic Prosperity. Again, that Imer Imeri doesn't sound Macedonian to me, looking at the name itself. Witnessed by, I may be wrong, you can correct me, and it was witnessed by Francois Leotard, James W. Perdue. Do you remember that fellow, James W. Perdue, or Perdue? This first one, Francois Leotard, was the special representative of the European Union. A Frenchman, no doubt. Based on my knowledge of French, limited knowledge of French, nevertheless. James W. Perdue was a special representative of the United States of America. There we have it. That was Appendix 12, the last appendix contained in this scholarly publication by Professor Dr. Igor JANEV. The title of this scholarly document is the PRESPA Agreement as Cultural Genocide of the Macedonian National Identity towards the termination of an illegal treaty, a 2023 publication. Next time I see you on In Focus with Silvana Pavlovska, we will be delivering to you Annex A and most likely Annex B, providing there is time to do so, that it's not too long for you to listen to and concentrate upon. And with that, we will end the this scholarly publication, but I'll tell you more about it, of course, next time I see you. So this has been a program titled In Focus with Silvana Pavlovska, an independent journalist broadcasting from Melbourne, Australia. And I thank you for your attention, undivided attention. Please do go back and listen to episodes you haven't heard. You might have missed certain things. I certainly will be going through the document again. And so 1st of June, happy 1st of June, 2024 to you. Looking forward to seeing you very soon. Thanks once again. Bye for now.